Greetings everyone, it's Kaz here, and today we are talking Uncharted 4's single-player standalone expansion, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I am really excited for this expansion. It is of course expected later this year, so today we have some surprising, I guess still really cool news though, about how long this expansion will be. And obviously with big single-player AAA games, and of course with Naughty Dog games in general, people of course want to know how long these experiences will be, to know how much this will be worth. And in terms of playtime and how much we're going to get out of The Lost Legacy, we've got some fantastic news and a good inclination as to how long this new adventure in the Uncharted universe will actually be. So Arne Meyer, the director of communications over at Naughty Dog, had a couple of things to say about The Lost Legacy in a recent interview by the International Business Times. He was quizzed there, and he talked about exactly what prompted the transition from Uncharted: The Lost Legacy from being a DLC pack essentially to Uncharted 4 and what is now a full standalone expansion and experience. So here's what he had to say on the topic. Quote, "Years ago when we were asked if we were ever going to do a single player expansion for Uncharted, we always said, well, we don't have the self-discipline to do that. If we tried to do that, we'd create a full game. There's no way we could sort of constrict and restrain ourselves, and that's exactly what was happening here. When we were doing story pictures, we were coming up with a game that would be over 10 hours long, and so suddenly we realized that everything we said was true and we couldn't keep it short." This isn't the first time Naughty Dog has commented on the length of Uncharted 4 The Lost Legacy. They've also said before that they had no intention to keep The Lost Legacy a short experience, and that it of course is the biggest story expansion that the studio has created to date. Now of course the only other story expansion the studio has ever created is The Last of Us Left Behind, which by all accounts takes around 2.5 to 2 hours to complete. So those past comments left us with some speculation in terms of how long this was going to be. I personally had expectations that this game was going to be a minimum, say, 3 hours long, and then an absolute maximum of 5 hours long. That's what I was thinking prior to this comment. This is actually incredible because the big statement he says here is that it would be very hard to come up with something that would be less than 10 hours long, and we were coming up with a game that would be over 10 hours long. That's the quote. So that's incredible. So when he says this, he doesn't necessarily mean that the game is over 10 hours long. However, I think it is pretty safe to assume that the game is going to be 10 hours long. That is not a confirmed thing, but from this comment, and if we take it in a certain context and look at it in a certain way, it doesn't really take a mathematical rocket science genius to figure out that this will most likely be an over 10-hour experience, which is absolutely fantastic. It's going to be almost the length of some of the other Uncharted games. It's almost going to be an Uncharted game in unto itself, which is just absolutely brilliant. I am really excited to go on this journey. If you've been following my channel, you'll know that Uncharted 4 was my game of the year for 2016, and the fact that we're getting more Uncharted 4 from Naughty Dog is pretty awesome. There's really no two ways about it, because I was personally worried after we saw the demo at PSX for Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and we got a substantial bite into it. It was about 10 or so minutes, I do believe, of content that we saw for Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I'm sure it was from the opening sequence, or at least a very early sequence in the game, but nonetheless, assuming that the game at the time I believe was going to be 3 to 5 hours at absolute tops, I was thinking that we'd just witnessed maybe a substantial portion of what this expansion will be. If you think about it, if the game was only going to be 3 to 4 hours long or so, and they showed us 15 minutes of it, they've shown us a pretty substantial fraction there. So now, having the confidence that that was not very much a substantial fraction at all, at least not to the extent that we originally believed, that's a very good thing. At the end of the day, I guess the moral to this whole story is that more Uncharted, the better. Because of Naughty Dog's focus on The Last of Us Part 2, and I assume other projects as well coming up in the works, this will definitely be our last AAA glimpse into the Uncharted universe, at least for a substantial period of time, maybe for the next decade or so. But Uncharted will make its return, but for now, The Lost Legacy is going to be our last look into this world, and I'm super excited to jump into this huge, now what we know is a huge expansion. So what do you guys think of Uncharted 4: The Lost Legacy? Are you excited about it? Are you very happy it's going to be over 10 hours long now? Make sure you let me know in the comments section below. If you are new around here, be sure you're subscribing to the channel and check out some of my other content. That would be very much appreciated. That's enough from me. I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Farewell.